Well, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon and happy brunch. Blessings to you all. Oh my goodness, am I awake? Ah, let me just wipe my glasses. Hi, everybody. Please take a seat. Go ahead and join us for today's brunch. As I get my glasses taken care of. Good to see you all out there in beautiful YouTube land. Am I okay here? How are we doing? How is everybody? Let me just make sure I've got all the settings. Oh dear, what is that? Sorry, give me a second to just take care of these settings. And while I'm doing that, how are you doing? Is everybody okay? Yeah? It's an interesting conversation we're going to be having today. Hopefully my sound is good. Ah, blessings, blessings. Is everybody awake? That's the first thing. Is everybody awake? Yeah? So what are the so budgets, that is the question, right? The big sticking point is Social Security, right? And we got some war news. You guys want to talk about war news, is that right? Let's see what we've got here. We've got civil war, Russian jets violating NATO. He just fired, Putin just fired people. Boy, I would be thinking it would be more likely that he would be just out and out killing them, right? At this point. Why are people asking about the 2024 election being overturned? I think that absolutely not. The Republicans got what they wanted. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the Republicans. They got everything they wanted. Why would they throw it away? No, the 2024 election is not going to be overturned. Just like Bush Jr. was able to steal the election with the Supreme Court. America's been broken for a long time. Gore won that election. We all know Gore won the election. And it was proven that Gore won the election. They did a lot of things to help him win Florida. They threw out a lot of votes from people of color who they knew were going to vote for Gore, preventing the American people from voting. That's the first thing they did, was suppression of the vote. And then the other thing that they did was they started creating ballots, butterfly ballots, that would push people to accidentally vote for Buchanan. So they created a butterfly ballot so that when people voted for Gore, they accidentally voted for Buchanan. So Buchanan had far more votes than, and then people tried to go in and correct that they didn't vote for Buchanan, and they said all sales are final. but I didn't vote for Buchanan, right? So they were able to prove irrevocably. I mean, it's not even up for debate that Al Gore won the election and that the election was stolen. And the consequences of that were that Bush was able to go in and control the courts, because it goes back to what Mitch McConnell has said when we have gone in and done remotes from Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is focused on the courts. It's all about the courts. It's all about the courts, right? Anytime you try to connect GOP SCOTIS, right? So who owns the GOP SCOTUS? The billionaires and the millionaires and the oligarchs, right? And what is the function of the billionaires and the millionaires and the oligarchs? The function of the millionaires and the billionaires and the oligarchs has been the same throughout time. It's to feed religion to the peasants like dry, moldy bread crust. If you look at the difference between the spirituality of Christianity, how it started, and what it was turned into by the Romans. The purpose when the Romans took control of Christianity was to make you a slave, to make you a compliant slave. And so what they did was they started writing in the New Testament statements about the best thing that you can do if you're a slave is to be a good, obedient slave and to do whatever your master tells you to do, and then your reward will be in heaven. And so what happens is that a lot of people who became committed Christians were being told that the underlying purpose of Christianity was submission. You must submit, right? You must submit to the will of your master and be compliant as a slave and be a goodly slave. And then your reward will be in heaven. And this also helped prop up slavery in the United States. So they were able to, they've been doing this for a long time. They were able to keep slavery alive and well in the United States by telling slaves that if they rebelled and tried to break free, they were going against the will of God and Jesus, and there would be serious consequences for the things that they had done. And so if you denigrate and abuse somebody and do something like that to their mental health and convince them that the best way to get to heaven is to be a compliant slave, if that person can't read, can't write, has been abused their whole life through the slavery system, then you've succeeded in creating a pliable slave. And that's what religion has done, pretty much. And that's why the oligarchs are interested in evangelical Christianity or any religion that gets you to be a good person. They don't have to be good people. That's not the function. The function isn't for them to be good people. The function is for you to be a compliant slave. And that is why they're invested in slavery. The other invested in organized religion. And this is also why they were upset about people not going to church, because when people didn't go to church, they weren't donating to the churches. And then the churches, particularly the mega churches that were connected to the Republican Party, were feeding those funds as dark money into lobbying groups that were pushing for their agenda, like not giving women a right to choose, because you've got to have more slaves, right? This is, if you read The Richest Man in Babylon, how do you get to be the richest man in Babylon? By having slaves. How do you get to be even richer? By having more slaves. So if the slaves are not reproducing, you have a problem. So this is especially true if you look at places like Texas. They need more slaves. The slaves are not reproducing. So they would go in and they would look at their slaves and say, they're not reproducing enough. So taking away a woman's right to choose was about control, but it was also about ensuring that the slaves continue to reproduce. So that's pretty much it. How are you today? Oh, I'm all over the place. Oh my goodness, I'm all over the place. Let's go ahead and say hi to everybody that's here. Maybe do some blitzes. We've got the cards set up. Two. What is that? There's two of these. There's two. You know what I'm talking about. We got two cameras out. Got some wax here. And that should be able to allow you to see the cards a little bit better. Does that work better for you? Yeah, you like that? I like it too. Okay. Well, my cat drank my water again. So my water is, sometimes I drink my water and it has a very strange taste like cat whiskers. It's got that cat breath. So I have to go get some water and I'm kind of trapped in here. So I need to get out and get some water before I get started. So please say hi to everybody. Tell us where you're coming from for the brunch, what you eating, what you drinking, and where you're coming from. And then I'm going to go get some water while you're doing that. Excuse me, everyone. Kitty breath. Yes, it's interesting when you study Babylonian religion, the kind of stuff you find out. But one of the things they would say to the slaves is that God, the King of Kings, right? It was a monarchy, right? These are monarchies. How do you know they're monarchies? You know they're monarchies when you look at the imagery of the Bible. The King of Kings, right? So the king who is above all other kings. Where does the King of Kings live? He lives in heaven. You can't see him. He's invisible. You can't see him. He's invisible. The King of Kings. I am your Lord and Master, but he is a greater Lord and Master than me. And I can't be here 24 hours a day watching all of my slaves. I've got things to do, places to go, people to meet. And so how do I control my slaves? I tell them that the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, is invisible. You can't see him, but he can see you. And he knows every thought, and he knows your comings and your goings, and he knows if you cheated me, if you stole from me, if you stole grain from me, if you stole the corn from me. He knows. If you lie, if you cheat, or you steal, this invisible Lord that you can't see is ever watching you. This is something that Thomas Jefferson did. When I was remote viewing Sally Hemings, he would whisper in her ear and he would tell her things. Now we're talking about people that have no education. They've been born in slavery. They've been molested, raped, and abused from birth. And their heads are filled with all kinds of crazy things because that's how you control slaves. But one of the things that he would do is he would tell her that God was watching her. You better not run. You better not leave, Sally. He sees everything. And if you run out there and you try to escape, those engines are going to get you, right? The Native Americans are going to kidnap you and they're going to they're going to cut off all that pretty hair. They're going to scalp you. They're going to take you and they're going to do terrible things to you, Sally. All that beautiful, pretty hair. That's what he would say. All that beautiful, pretty hair, they're going to scalp you. So what happened to the mental health of Sally Hemings was who I became as Sally Hemings was a person who could not form sentences. And that was my first experience as a remote viewer of what it was to be a slave. I could not form speech. I could not talk because I wasn't allowed to talk. My speech development was either delayed or permanently impaired because the prime time to develop speech is when you're very, very young, right? But if you're raised by parents who have a severe speech impediment because they weren't allowed to speak, you have generations of people with speech impediments. And I don't think that modern day historians have, and people who write historical novels and historical films truly understand what was going on with people who had become slaves in the United States and why we see strange speech patterns. And the reason why those speech patterns existed was because we were to be seen and not heard, and in many cases not even seen, like scullery maids. They weren't allowed to come up. Nobody was supposed to see you. You were supposed to slip up, take the toiletries away, and God forbid anybody should be horrified and see a dirty scullery maid up in the master's bedroom, right? Anybody see Downton Abbey, where the assistant to the cook, she was the scullery maid. She was the lowest on the rung, and so everyone, the entire staff, is to go up and meet for this meeting. Me too? No, of course not you. You have to stay down in the kitchen, right? Because she was the scullery maid. She was an embarrassment, right? So that was my experience of being Sally Heming. I was incapable of words. Even if you had said, "Hey, Sally, how you doing today?" I would have looked at you like you had two heads, and I would have maybe mumbled something and then gotten out of the way, hoping not to get hit or anything like that. The other thing about Sally Heming was that she walked a fine line. You had house slaves, and you had slaves that were out in the field under harsh conditions. And so she was considered lucky, right? Which meant that she was worried about revenge and being alone and talking. You weren't supposed to talk. Slaves were not supposed to talk to one another, because if slaves were talking to one another, that meant they were up to something, right? So she was terrified also. I felt as Sally Heming, I was terrified of being caught talking to the other slaves. So if another slave approached me, particularly if a male approached me, it was sometimes I'd have to go outside. You have to get things, firewood, things you have to get. And you had to move very, very quickly and not make eye contact with anybody, and certainly not get caught speaking or alone with somebody else. Because if the master of the house or anybody that worked for the house that was in a higher position saw that, it was immediately reported. So that was slavery. There's this invisible God that's watching you and sees everything, and you're going to burn in hell forever if you go against the will of the master, right? So we take that back to American politics today, and it's just a regurgitating of how do we control the slaves? How do we control the slaves that work at Walmart, that work in the mines? We feed them religion, we don't give them real education, and we tell them that there's some invisible God that's watching them, so that they can continue to be controlled when I am out of town, when I am not there, when I am not available. And then they will believe that they will be rewarded in the next lifetime when you die. So basically, the person has no life. They are indoctrinated into believing that the best thing they can do is be subservient. It's the ultimate gaslight. And you'll live in after death. You'll be free when you're dead. Right? On that happy note, hi, Kay. Good to see you. Wonderful friend of mine. Lovely to see her here. And hello to Ann Dillon. Welcome, welcome. Ann Coleman is in the house. Hope everybody got some sleep. Floor Director Joel Tilson is here. We'll be answering all of those questions. Deborah Murphy is here. Welcome. Welcome. The Sybil, absolutely fabulous to see you here. Tarot Task Backwards, hello. And Sugar Baby's mama, always good to see you here as well. We've got Audrey Cannon in the house. Welcome, welcome. We've got Deb Loves Animals, as do I. Desiree Robato, Joanna Corbett, hello. Jolene, always good to see you here. Tavi is in the house, as is Christy, married daughter. Renee Hahn, hello. Renee Armette, Intuitive Kathy as well. Wendy, our beautiful hat maker, is here. Lovely to see you. Terry Gallant is in the house. Also great to see you. Never too late to dream. Hello to you as well, sensitive person. Beth Andrews and Jay as well here. Oh my goodness, we've got Debbie Brady, extraordinary creative director, who has created such a beautiful channel here and some wonderful fan pages. Be sure and check them out, my fan pages over at Facebook. She keeps things light and lively. And of course, next week during our reading, we will be having a get-together for our Book of the Month Club. We will be selecting one person to receive a free reading. So be sure and sign up at the Oracle of Whimsy fan pages, and you can win a free reading as well. Hello, Helen Wheels is in the house. Marsh, hello. Ooh, looks like Joel Tilson is having pot roast. Dang, that sounds absolutely yummy. Tavi, the cat prefers the glass of water. Absolutely true. Woodpile Witch is here, and she's from Missouri, and she's having cantaloupe. Ruth is making sure she gets her potassium. Banana does the trick. Absolutely true. No, I had insomnia and I put a post up. I was up till 8:30 in the morning. I have no idea what the heck was going on. Deborah Murphy eating mashed potatoes and cubed chick in gravy. Well, that sounds absolutely delicious. You know, those old-fashioned recipes, they just really do the trick. Jay is having cookies and cream cheesecake. Absolutely yummy. Roasted salmon and baby broccoli is Lonnie's healthy choice. And got some apricot sauce there. Yes, I can appreciate that. Intuitive Kathy is like me. She just wants to have something light, some nice coffee. But she had some sliced peaches, yum, yum, with burrata. Oh, my goodness. Ollie girl, beef pasta. So, you know, they say South America, if you like beef, they say South America is the place to go. Yeah, don't have it too often. It's not good for the environment, but once in a blue moon, they say it's okay if you have it once in a blue moon. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to do the Empath prayer and give you a collective reading. If anybody here needs to receive a healing at this time, please give us your name or the person you want us to pray for, and we will include them in our prayers. I think the book of the month is lying next to my bed. Next Time Around by Sylvia Sullivan is our book of the month. Maybe Next Time Around. Everybody liking it? Oh my goodness. I'm getting a frog in my throat. It's because I haven't spoken today. All right, for those people who don't know, we have a book of the month. It looks like it's now available in paperback. It was out of paperback before, but I know many of you don't like the Kindle. I don't like the Kindle too. I was lucky enough to get the hard copy. Sharia Shah is the lead in the story. I'll read you a little bit about the intro to the book. Shanae Shah had no idea when she went to work in medical media at NCU that she would find her ancient lover there. Dr. Ash Lawson began flirting with her from the moment she arrived, and she expected him to follow through any day, but something always seemed to hold him back. Shanae begins to understand why when she discovers Reiki, an ancient Oriental healing method, and encounters a soon-to-be mentor, Arthur Book, and an enchanting woman with access to the fairy world, Elva Brown. With their guidance, she begins to explore the New Age. All right, it's a lot of fun. It has to do with transmigration of souls, conflicts we have with other people, contracts we have with other people. So check it out. Like I said, you can get the Kindle version or the paperback maybe next time around. Sylvia Sullivan. And of course, she will be in our studios. That's next week on the 23rd at 6 p.m. Taco Tuesdays. It ought to be an absolutely fascinating interview. I know you won't want to miss it. Okay, without further ado, let's go ahead and we're going to bring in the empath prayer. Let's begin to pray for those people who need healing at this time. And it's wonderful to see you here. Thank you so much. Happy Sunday, everyone. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys, to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together collectively as a community, we say, Amen. And for those people today who are requesting a healing, we come together at this time and we pray. We pray that you and those you love receive a perfect healing in mind, body, and in spirit. And together again we say, Amen, Amen, Amen. May all souls be healed. May all souls be healed. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and we're going to do the collective reading for the week. This is a collective reading of images and impressions for the week that hopefully is relevant to all of us. If it doesn't apply to you, it's like a smorgasbord. You can just pass it down to the next person. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't had a chance yet to like and subscribe to the stream, I would really appreciate it as it helps build the algorithm as we gently try to make it to 100,000 subscribers. Thank you, everyone. Much, much love and appreciation. Let's do it. What is going on in the world right now? What do we need to know in order to get through this week? Oh, is there orbs? Oh, goody. That's wonderful. I like orbs. Hopefully it was a friendly orb. Reflective reading. Okay. Where we are at right now, the base of the matter is war. As many of you know, we've been getting the Knight of Swords quite a bit right now. The Knight of Swords, it has been called the bull in the china shop. And that's because the Knight of Swords is associated with violence, erratic behavior. If you're looking at it from the perspective of Chinese medical theory, right? If you're looking at the metal element in Chinese medicine, so the metal element is associated with the swords. The metal element is associated with the swords. And the time is the fall. Time of metal is the fall. And fall is when we also get flus, and it attacks our wind. It's an attack of the wind. So wind is associated with the lungs. So lung infection. In Chinese medicine, there's no difference between the external world and the internal world. So if we have disruptive wind, windstorms, erratic wind, it can have an impact on our wind system, the lungs. Our lungs are protected by the Wei Qi, which is our defense system against the wind, right? So the Wei Qi is an area in your back that tightens up when the wind hits your back. So the swords, the Knight of Swords specifically is wind run amok. It is wind run amok. And you can see that angry wind pushing around in the background. And you can see the sword or the metal is coming. So the metal element in Chinese medicine is associated with the organs of lung and large intestine. The lungs and the large intestine are associated with the metal element, and it impacts the wind and the ethers. See how smart Pam Coleman was? So this is the time of flus, influenzas. This is the time of people coming back from school and sharing their viruses. This is the time when people should have gotten their flu shots if you're concerned about getting the flu. It's also associated with war. We've talked about the fact that every time I throw the cards about the future, the base of the matter is the Knight of Swords. We are not unified in this country. We are not unified in this country. We're facing civil war. And so all of us are called to ask ourselves, are you fueling the war? Are you fueling the infection? Are you fueling the virus that we are all infected with, right? So it's a time of anger, violent winds, high infection rates, and war. And this is why we say that war is inevitable. In terms of karma, how we handle war is up to us. We could join the war and start fighting and risk killing somebody or getting killed. And sometimes you have to do that. Arjuna didn't want to go to war in the Bhagavad Gita, but in the end, he understood he had to. Sometimes there's a time for war. Or your job may be to try and cool the heat, to calm things down so there isn't any war, right? So that we want to make sure there's no war. So, but this is a time of anger and this is a time of war. The karma card is the Six of Pentacles, and the Six of Pentacles is associated with justice. And you can see He's holding that beautiful justice, and it's balanced. Those scales are balanced. Who is going to receive mercy and who is going to be denied mercy? Now, this is the time of Rosh Hashanah, as Joel points out. This is the Jewish New Year. And this is the time when we begin to harvest, reap what we sow. If we worked hard in the field, if we had good rains, then we will have a good harvest. It's also the beginning of winter when most people die. Most people die in the winter. Who by water? Who by fire? Right? So that's the ultimate question, right? Is that we are entering into the time where the scales are balancing. So you have to ask yourself, if you're thinking about it from a Buddhist perspective, have you done everything in your power to have a good Rosh Hashanah? You know, are you doing everything in your power to have a good Rosh Hashanah? You know, a Cohen in Judaism is a high priest. If your name is Cohen, it means that you are a direct descendant of you're a direct descendant of Aaron. Aaron was, I believe, the older brother. I always thought of him as the younger, but then I was reading that he was actually the older brother of of uh, of Moses. But now is the time of the account and the reckoning. So that is the time. I'm probably going to have to cut that out of the. They'll probably catch it, and I'll probably have to cut it out. But that song that he's singing is an ancient song. It's an ancient prayer about this time of year when you are harvesting your work for the year. This is why I tell people you must give yourself an account and a reckoning. You must give yourself an account and a reckoning. You must have a journal. And in that journal, you must give yourself an account and a reckoning, because this idea of an invisible God watching you at all times, actually, you are watching you at all times. It is you judging yourself. And every action and every deed, there are consequences for the things that you have done. There are consequences for the things that you have done. And it's very important for all of us to not sugarcoat what we have done and to always make ourselves out to be the victims, but to take some personal responsibility for the part we played in the collapse of certain relationships, in the dynamics of certain relationships, and our decision to be in certain relationships. Like choosing to stay in the United States right now or leave, if that is what you're inclined to do. If what you're inclined to do is leave, so be it. But you and I find ourselves in this current situation because of our choices. And there's a culmination that happens in this time of year. So if you energetically, it's the wheel of fortune. It goes round and round and round in a circle. That time is a circle, and we keep returning back to that time. And so at this time energetically, we are collectively entering the time of Rosh Hashanah, where we must give ourselves an account and a reckoning. And those people who are going to die by water, by fire, by high court, those people who will be blessed with another check. I know many of you are hoping for a relief check. That is what they're talking about in this remote. You can see the Six of Pentacles is pushing forward. That Six of Pentacles, the balance, everything in the end is going to be balanced. Who will receive a blessing and who will not? So what happens before Rosh Hashanah is that people begin and before Yom Kippur is that people begin to do an account and a reckoning. This is something that's talked about in the 12 steps. You make an account and a reckoning of everyone that you have harmed. You apologize to those people that you have harmed. But more than that, you pay restitution. If you owe somebody money, now is the time to pay them back. Or to work it off. Say, I owe you money, I can't pay it back, but I would like to work it off. And you do what you can to work it off. But the point of the matter is, by keeping a diary and by keeping a journal and giving yourself an account and a reckoning and holding yourself accountable, because there's no invisible God out there, it's just you, right? You're the one that chose to put the cream puff in your mouth, or the chocolate in your mouth, or the fried chicken from KFC, right? They say the best KFC is in Jamaica, man. Montego Bay. If you want to have the best chicken in the world, they say go to Montego Bay. And there's no better chicken in the world than the Montego Bay KFC. I'll tell you, I was thinking about getting on a plane and going on vacation to Montego Bay just to try the chicken. So that is the time to meditate on. And the first house for you and I is the moon. The moon is an interesting card. It has both a positive and a negative aspect. It is associated with Cancer, the sign of Cancer, which is a water sign. And the moon is associated with lunacy, howling at the moon. It's interesting that we're entering into Rosh, which in Hebrew, Rosh is the head. I'm just teach you a little bit of Hebrew. Rosh is the head. Shana is year. The head of the year, right? So we have a full moon. We have the new moon, right? When it's the new moon, the new year. And then the energy culminates in headed towards the full moon. And at that point, we're entering into the days of awe. And at that time, we're headed towards Yom Kippur, Slichot, Yom Kippur, Slichot, which means excuse me. Apologies, Slichot. I'm sorry, Slichot. Excuse me. Right? There's a little bit more Hebrew. So the moon is the time of lunacy, howling at the moon. It's also the time of Cancer. And then the positive aspects are psychic ability, psychic phenomenon. So the veil between this world and the worlds to come is very thin at this time. Or All Hallows Eve, October 31st, is right around the time that we enter. Is it the winter equinox? Samhain, is that correct? Samhain is the traditional way. So the evening of Friday, October 31st. So that's cool. It's going to be a Friday. And it goes until All Saints Day. Is it All Saints Day, November 1st? So if we're talking about the Celtic tradition, we're building energy from this time, which is Rosh Hashanah, which starts tomorrow night. And then we're entering into the day, those are the days of awe, account and reckonings, times to make an apology and pay your bills. And this idea of people sewing their clothing, they would sew the clothing onto themselves. They would harvest as much food as possible. They would lock themselves in their house, make sure they had enough food and water. And they were not going to come out of there until February 14th, which is the first spring. There's 2 springs in the Celtic tradition. And it was time of love and celebration because people would check on their neighbors and see who lived and who died, who by water, who by fire, right? Who was going to survive the winter, who had enough food stored. So Samhain is the ancient Celtic festival typically celebrated for October 31st to November 1st that marks the end of the harvest season and the beginning of the dark half of the year or winter. During Samhain, the veil between the physical and spiritual worlds was believed to thin, allowing spirits, fairies, and the dead to more easily pass into the human realm. So everything is connected, right? Particularly if you're talking about harvest cultures and harvest communities that lived according to the seasons, right? So that is a little bit about what is going on energetically. So we're entering into that time when you see people in the synagogue praying. It's the most important time to develop a connection with God. I don't want to die this winter. I don't want to die alone. I screwed up. I robbed. I stealed. I cheated. I got to make it right before winter comes, right? If nothing else, nobody's going to help you if you're in trouble this winter. Can I have an extra loaf of bread? No, you lied and cheated and you shamed the entire village. So we're just going to let you die on your own. There's another consequence, right? The crossing card is the 2 of Swords, an inability to see the part that you played in the life that you created for yourself. If a person's a slave, then they truly have no rights. Now, there are a lot of people that find themselves literally held hostage in relationships. Women that can't leave, they're trapped by children or domestic violence, people that will kill them if they try to leave. And so they do have limited choice. Maybe they truly didn't know the guy was a wingnut, or maybe somebody got involved in drugs. But the point is that the 2 of Swords is a refusal to see one's own part in the. It's that helplessness of the slave that's part of the old religion that we've talked about, where people used Christianity as a way of controlling the slaves, that you had to be submissive and helpless to some invisible God that was watching you, and you were completely at the mercy. And same with Islam, submission, right? Submission and surrender, and stop fighting what's being done to you. Oh, there are orbs flying everywhere? Okay, well, that's cool. I'm all right with that. So 2 of Swords is a refusal to see our part in everything. So it's important for us to really spend this time meditating and asking ourselves, are you involved in learned helplessness? Are you helpless by design? I always tell people to start with your diet. Last night, I rate myself. I give an accountant a reckoning using Grok. I know a lot of people don't like Twitter X, but I actually find some good stuff with, I think Grok is excellent. But how I like to give myself an accountant reckoning is I use, it's modern times, right? You can use an old diary, and I do that too sometimes. But what I like to do is I like to use supercomputers. I mean, not supercomputers, but artificial intelligence. I like to use Know Me and give an account and a reckoning. So last night I did an account. I always do an account and a reckoning of my diet, and I got an A. It was delicious too. I did curried mung beans, and I cooked them till the water went out so they were dry. And I don't like a lot of sloppy. I don't like food to be sloppy. I like it to be dry. So they were like dried out mung beans curry with very little salt because I'm diminishing my salt. And I put that on top of a mixture of quinoa and brown rice. And I put that on top of a massive salad with arugula, little olive oil, balsamic, delish. And then I had my protein and greens by Paradise with my flax and my hemp and my walnuts for omegas, mixed frozen fruit, almond and soy milk, a little bit of banana. So I asked Grok, okay, do a nutritional account and reckoning, and I got an A. So I was very happy. So yeah, that's an example of doing an account and a reckoning, but it's a habit that I strongly encourage for people. So Two of Swords is a refusal. It's that defensive way we get where we just don't want to own our own participation. Right? So Two of Swords is a refusal to look, and the crash is coming. So how did we as Americans participate in the situation that we find ourselves in right now, including a stock market crash, which is probably coming? War is inevitable. We can see the war card coming up here. I'm seeing war. I'm seeing the tower. And I'm seeing that everything is happening as it should because we collectively created it. Six of Pentacles. Yeah, I'm 90% Furman too. I'm 90% vegan with 10% animal product. My animal product was I did a little bit of 1% dairy in my coffee. I'm doing 50% dairy, 50% soy. I'm doing 50-50 to cut out the amount of dairy. And the other reason I lost points was because I mix sugar and allulose sweetener. So it's 50-50 to reduce the amount of sugar. But I still wound up after a few cups of coffee with 1 tablespoon of sugar. But they don't want you to go above 25 grams of sugar a day. And I think I was at like 24 or something like that. Yeah, so I did very well for myself. So there's a crash coming. So I'm going to go ahead and predict with these cards that we are at war. America is at war. Now, you could say it's wag the dog, but I think Maduro was put in by Russia, and by going to war with Maduro, we're going to war with Russia. And I think that based on these cards, we're also looking at a stock market crash. And I think that we simply don't want to take responsibility for how America got. I know that I participated in America turning out this way. I've not been as involved in going to the town halls as I should. I have not been as, I thought everything was going to be great when Obama got elected. Yeah, the dark times are behind us. Boy, were we wrong, right? We got comfortable, right? Daddy's home, right? That's what they say about Trump. Well, I felt the same way when Obama got elected and when Biden oh, thank God, Daddy's home. And that's ultimately the problem, is that we have to take responsibility. Daddy's not going to fix it. This helplessness, Two of Swords, this refusal to see our participation, this confusion, right? This howling at the moon and then crash. And so it starts with the most basic things of self-care so that your brain is functioning properly. Take your omegas, take your, eat your nutrient dense diet, try and get off animal products to the best of your ability because it's bad for the environment. If you need to, look, not everybody can be vegan. But do your best. The point is that we all have to collectively take responsibility for our part in why the world looks the way that it does right now. And what is above us, what is coming in, is the fourth house. And the fourth house is grief, that many of us are stuck in states of grief. I've talked to you a lot about the fact that I am a doctor of naturopathic medicine, and that part of what attracted me to being a naturopathic doctor is that I wanted to be a great herbalist. And one of the things you learn as an herbalist is something which is called the simples. And the simples are when you focus on one herb at a time. This is one of the ways that we develop a relationship with the plant. And it's based on this idea that plants are conscious beings, that just like ayahuasca is a conscious being, and that these plants want to work with us as teachers and helpers. And so right now, and you want to work, some people will work with a plant for a week, some people will work with the plant for a month. Right now I'm working with, and it's a simple, we're not talking about blends. I make blends for my patients. I've got so much adrenal, every patient that comes to me has adrenal fatigue, right? So I will do sometimes blends where there's 15 herbs inside the tea remedy. I don't do tinctures. I think good old-fashioned decoctions, making teas with boiling water, steeping them, strong teas. This is the Chinese medical way of doing it. I like good old-fashioned simples, simple remedies. But a simple is when you focus on just one herb at a time. And right now, the herb that I am focusing on is chamomile. And chamomile is a profound plant. And we've talked about the power of chamomile, that chamomile is in the Asteraceae or Compositae family. It looks like the sun, and it's supposed to bring sun to you. And I buy my tea bags on Amazon. I know you guys don't like Amazon, but they supply work to a lot of different companies. They're just a warehouse that sells different companies. But I use the non-bleached tea bags, and I stuff that puppy with so much chamomile, just one herb chamomile. Put it in a teapot and then pour a lot of scalding boiling water, and I let it steep for a good 10 minutes to get and move it around, and you can squeeze the tea bag to try and get as much of the chamomile out as possible. And then I will drink copious amounts of the chamomile. Now, if you want to just get some chamomile at Costco and have a couple cups of tea, that's fine. And you may get some nice medicinal benefits from it. But it's not the same as using it medicinally the way I am, where I'm trying to develop a relationship with that plant and have that plant help me as a healing plant. And I've been feeling so good. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. I've been feeling so good. And the reason I chose chamomile is because it falls in the class of being a nervine. And it's used for anxiety and depression. It makes you happy. The sun comes out. And it helps me address my shadow during the days of awe. Now, some of you have said that you have a sensitivity to chamomile, so I would do the same exact thing, but I would use the plant holy basil, and you can buy them in bulk. And holy basil helps heal deep-seated trauma. So if you're in a state of Two of Swords and you're having difficulty looking at your stuff, my first plant, the first teacher plant I would start you with is high dose chamomile. One plant, one herb. And if you can't do chamomile because you're allergic to flowering plants, some people can't do chamomile, then I would work with the plant holy basil. Now, holy basil has been researched by, I think it's Walter Reed Medical, for its ability to help soothe or comfort people who suffer from complex post-traumatic stress disorder by working deep with memory and trauma, pulling up and healing the trauma, as does chamomile. But I usually start people with chamomile. And the other important thing I would say to people is that there are many plants that are easy to acquire that are given no respect because we live in a pharmaceutical age. And people just think, oh, it's just dandelion, not understanding that these plants, if they're used properly, will change your life forever. And chamomile is a plant that will change you forever. Calendula also can be used for the same reason. It's also a composite. We say it heals you where the sun don't shine. And that is why calendula creams and ointments are used for like butt boils. When you have a boil on your ass, they'll give you some, they'll lance it, heal it, use some, or they use calendula cream. So calendula is also helpful. If you are on blood thinners, then I would switch you to holy basil. Yeah, which does not contain the same amount of salicylates. The reason I'm saying all of this to you is not digressing, though it may sound like I'm digressing. I'm not digressing. I'm saying that based on your card chart, what I'm looking at right now is somebody trapped in grief, a refusal to look at their part in why things are falling apart, how we all participated. And Armageddon is coming for all of us, right? We all are going to die someday. And you can see very clearly when you look at this card chart that we are at war. Don't you think it's unusual that every time I throw the cards for the last couple of weeks, the base of the matter has been of the Knight of the Swords? Has anybody noticed that? Anybody here come here regularly? What's been the base the last 4 or 5 times you've come into session with me, or when you've come in to watch the channel? It's been the Knight of Swords, because we're at war. The market is going to crash. Everything is going to crash because we're at Tower. And Two of Swords is the inability to see how we participated. The Five of Cups is to be trapped in the past with an inability to go forward because you're trapped by what you've lost and not see what remains and work with what remains. Well, I'm old. It's too late for me. I can't learn the violin, right? And we are sitting in the Tower. What is behind us is Four of Pentacles is a frugality card. It's the importance of being frugal. It's also been called the Buddha card. And the reason why we call it the Buddha card is because it has an aspect to it of account and reckoning, of self-examination, of pulling back, of holding on to your coin. If you want to get to the kingdom of heaven, the Fool is on his way to a beautiful world. Look at that lovely city. It looks like, yeah, we're going to Mazatlan. We're going to Montego Bay, KFC. Woohoo! And then this guy shows up and blocks your path. Well, I want to get over there, man. That looks like Sao Paulo, man. Jamaica, man. I mean, get out of my way. And he's holding up the coin and it's acting like a mirror. It's acting like a mirror. Sorry, I've got a frog. It's acting like a mirror. And he's telling you to examine the nature of your own existence, watch your coin go inward, and he's telling you to retract. You can't just go from 0 to 60. So that is the Four of Pentacles. It's about frugality. It's about watching your coin. It's about self-examination. It's been called the camera card because he's holding it the way they used to hold cameras in the old days when they would make films. They would often just physically hold the camera steady. He's grounded by his coin. It's a card of grounding. If you wish to escape the cycle of old age, sickness, and death, you must first understand the nature of your own existence. And then the near future for all of us is that things are happening very rapidly. The Eight of Wands is for things to happen very, very quickly, very, very rapidly. The seventh house is be wise at this time. The High Priestess reveals the hidden knowledge. She is the revealer of that which is hidden. She is draped in the night. She is draped in the night, signifying the yin energy, the energy that is strengthened at night. And she holds the Torah, which is the light. Ta-or in Hebrew, to bear the light. And she is standing at the gates of Solomon's temple, right? What is it? It's Yafet. What's standing outside Solomon's temple? The key of Solomon, the wisdom of Solomon. Something in Yafet or something like that. I don't know. But that is the. It's supposed to symbolize the. She's standing outside Solomon's temple. The other interesting thing is the pomegranate, which was considered to have 613 seeds, 613 laws in the Torah. The ultimate wisdom. Plantain, woodpile, which is an astringent, and it's used to help with wound healing. If something is bleeding, like a bloody nose, you apply plantain. It's an astringent, and it can be used to draw poison out. The hope and the opposition at this time is Ten of Cups, the happy family and unity. We've talked about the fact that it's important for us to focus on creating unity everywhere we go and to be kind to everyone and spread kindness. Not to be abused or disrespected by people, but I'm just saying whenever possible, try to be kind and be of good cheer. Invite people who don't have anywhere to go. Invite them to come have Thanksgiving with you or dinner with you. Include more potlucks, more social events. Create more unity. Don't just live in your own box. Don't begin to play into this game, because that's what people who want civil war in the United States, they want the demonizing the Democrats. Right? This is what Marjorie Taylor Greene did, right? Well, as if we all collectively killed Charlie Kirk, which is insane, right? A lone gunman who was extremely confused, who grew up in a MAGA family and was a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, killed Charlie Kirk, right? And was deeply conflicted and not a particularly political person. So it had nothing to do with the Democrats. Probably didn't have anything to do with any political group. It was just a crazy person. It had something to do with the fact that crazy people have easy access to guns. That's part of that we have too many crazies in the United States and we have too many guns. Which goes back to, when all else fails, go back to your diet, because Americans are eating garbage and they're thinking garbage thoughts. And what we eat is impacting our mental health. This is why I say Cory Booker has more oxygen hitting his brain than Donald Trump, because Cory Booker is a vegan, whole food, health food freak, right? So he's getting a lot of oxygen to his brain that Donald Trump is not getting. Adam Schiff is also a health food freak and a vegan. So objectively, whether we like it or not, the brain health of Cory Booker and Adam Schiff is much better than Donald Trump, simply because we know how they eat. The hope and the fear at this time is that the truth will come out. So there's a real fear in the country that we will not be able to handle the truth. I've said in previous remotes that I don't think that Congress can save Donald Trump. Congress can't save Donald Trump because everybody has a cell phone. Everybody has access to the truth. This is another reason why it's a good idea to be a good person, because everything is recorded. The information is out there. There's nothing we can do to stop it. And so act as if everybody can see you, because first off, you should never do anything in private you can't admit to in public. That's just the best way to live your life. But that the truth is coming out. This is the great fear. And then the final outcome for you and I is Eight of Swords, restriction. Should human beings be restricted? Should our freedoms be restricted? My belief is yes. I'm not talking about the right of somebody to smoke marijuana and zone out I'm talking about certain things should be restricted. Everybody should not drive a car. If you don't have a license, any action that puts other people's lives at risk, you shouldn't be allowed to do that. Easy access to guns. What I believe is that Americans are saying that we want restrictions. We want self-imposed restrictions. Who doesn't want restrictions? Libertarians, right? They want to be able to do whatever the hell they want. Consequences be damned, right? The environment be damned. But the truth of the matter is, that's just how little kids think. They want to eat as much cookie dough and they want to eat as much candy. There's never going to be any consequences, right? They're obsessed with candy, right? But the truth of the matter is that that's not the real world. The real world is about this willingness to have self-imposed restrictions on certain things. You don't get to dump trash all over the sidewalk. You don't get to impose your will on the collective at the expense of everybody else. You don't get to pollute and create toxins in the environment, right? Eight of Swords is also a card. I think about red tape. I think about being in financial trouble, being in debt. That part of the benefits of credit card debt and part of the benefit of putting yourself in that situation is you're going to learn a lot about yourself by coming out of debt, right? That's why I started a debt-free channel, which was Broke Aristocrats, because I wound up in debt, right? By my own bad choices. I made, I also had some health challenges, but the point is that Eight of Swords can be going into debt, financial problems. Eight of Swords is a card you want to be aware of for economic concerns. Fighting back against the Tower is where we're at, and heartbreak. I really think that Republicans thought that Donald Trump was telling the truth. It's interesting. People become true believers. When you go into Mike Johnson's energy, he really believed that Donald Trump was innocent and that it was just some made up story by the Democrats. And it's starting to dawn on them, oh my God, this guy really is a pedophile. The sun coming out, taking the weapons of war away from our enemy. And there it is. Who by water, who by fire? The wheel of fortune has arrived. And as I had said before, you can see that time is a wheel. Look at those beautiful Hebrew letters. So you also see in Rosh Hashanah who is going to be in the book of life. Who is going to be in the book of life? Everything is recorded. Everything that you do is being recorded. Not by some invisible God, but that's just karma, the karmic wheel. The snakes of desire and also wisdom. Snake is a symbol of wisdom. The winged chariots, up. Whimsy didn't pay her taxes, up. Whimsy didn't exercise, up. Whimsy ate too many chocolate chip. Whimsy had that pizza. It was delicious, but here comes the acid reflux, right? So for every action, there's a reaction of equal or greater force. And the wheel is churning, returning back to Rosh Hashanah. And we are back at that time. And you now must reflect on your year. Reflect on your year and think about your actions. What can you do at this time to begin to gently address the ways that you participated in everything that is happening in the world at this time? And how can you change direction rather than just being defensive and being the victim? How did you participate in this crash? Because I can tell you the crash is here. Refusal to examine the self, Two of Swords, confusion, howling at the moon, living too much in the past, living too much in the past, Five of Cups. Those are the challenges we all face this week going forward. And it is changed when we take responsibility and we stop promoting us versus them and we begin to work towards unity. Okay, that is the collective reading. I hope it gave you some comfort and I hope it gave you clarity as well. Did everybody like that? We're going a little late today. That's all right. It was a long, I think because it's Rosh Hashanah, it's the Jewish New Year's, and everybody is kind of facing that energy. That is why the collective reading was so long today. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. If people need to take off, I understand because we did have a long brunch today. But we're going to go ahead and blitz away just as soon as I get the order to blitz away. Until I get the order, please check out our Book of the Month Club. As I have mentioned to all y'all, it's a good book. Sylvia Sullivan is the author, and it is, I've got an upcoming appointment there. Just got a text. Maybe next time around. Yes, by Sylvia Sullivan. She'll be in our studios on Tuesday if you want to participate. Also, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the stream. It really is going to help the algorithm. And it looks like I got the order to blitz away. So without further ado, we're going to go back to the top and start hitting all the questions that you have about everything that's going on right now. Russian jets are constantly violating NATO country airspace. Will NATO shoot them down? It's a very scary situation because What Putin wants is he wants to negotiate a peace deal. He wants to scare NATO to the negotiating table. In his mind, threatening NATO is good. Threatening NATO is going to get them to say, we'll do whatever you say, because the truth of the matter is he doesn't have much of an army anymore. And so by being aggressive, he thinks in his mind that he can get NATO to agree to a ceasefire and that he can take Crimea and certain parts of Ukraine for now. And then he'll rebuild his army, and then he'll take the rest. He needs a break so that he can rebuild his military, even though he doesn't have much of a country left since everybody took off or died. All right. Let's take a look. What is NATO's response? You know, I'm thinking that NATO's response is war. It's very bad. You know, it's a very bad situation because if we're at war with Russia, that's pretty damn serious, you know. Do we really want to be at war with Russia? That's a pretty terrifying thing to think about, right? What are you thinking? Yes, no? Do we have a choice? Or do we give him what we want, what he wants? Do we give Putin what he wants and wind up selling off parts of Ukraine in order to avoid World War III? A healing is needed. Archangel Raphael moving into 7th position. 7th house is a blitz, or 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th house is a blitz. The immediate environment is a need for healing, Archangel Raphael, and the obstacle at this time is the end. The time of negotiations have come to an end, perhaps. Hopes and fears. There is Ukraine. Ukraine is the lady who carries the sunflower, also in the Compositae family. Related to the artichoke, believe it or not, same family. Isn't that cool? Final outcome is a new beginning, but Archangel Uriel is also the builder, and he is the pilgrim who builds a new road. It can be an aggressive fire energy moving in. Doesn't necessarily denote war, but it could be a message of war. Patience over healing. There it is, the negotiation. I think Ukraine is very concerned about having their soul sold. Well, we can just go ahead and give away your country. Excuse me? Give away my country? Are you out of your freaking mind? No, you may not give away my country. Well, you're on your own. I don't like this. I don't like this idea of NATO trying to avoid war and pushing for peace at the expense of Ukraine. They have to know that Putin doesn't have much of a military left. Putin recently fired more generals. Will the Russian military turn on Putin? I think that that's ultimately what Putin suspects is happening, because Putin is constantly firing and killing people like his transportation secretary, because he thought his transportation secretary, based on the remotes, was giving away key positions for the movement of military cargo. That's what happened. Like, how was there pinpoint attacks by the Ukrainians of certain cargo that was being moved? It was because somebody inside transportation was telling them where this stuff was going and where it was being sent, and that's why they killed him. The The sword of truth, Michael, the sun coming out, the hope and fear, there it is again, the wise ones, and four of swords. At this time, no. They're afraid. They're limited. No, they're too afraid. Just like Stalin, when Stalin went around killing anybody that he thought was working against him. The same situation exists now in Russia. If they're going to do anything, it's assassinate him. But even that is taking a risk because yeah, because he'll find you and kill you. The 24 elections, no, I don't know who would do that since the Republicans are in charge and in control of everything. So who is in a position of power to do that? And they're completely fine. Again, the art of war is the ability to look at your enemy, and the Republicans are completely okay with J.D. Vance as the VP, so why would they stop that from happening? It wouldn't make any sense for them to do that to themselves. Would you do that to yourself if you were them? Of course not. So, fighting back. Examining the situation, hopes and fears, war, charge, civil war, conflict, and the final outcome is the Fool. They will continue on their trajectory. A heavy load lay ahead for the GOP. They could have conflict with some of the courts. The hopes and fears, the global unrest, and then the final outcome is the King of Cups. I think everything hinges on Mike Johnson. That's Mike Johnson's card. Will the U.S. budget, I think that, he is he third, is he second in line for the presidency? Yeah. All right. Will the U.S. budget pass? Will the U.S. budget pass? Two of Pentacles. There could be conflicts with the U.S. budget. We're seeing a lot of high priestess intellectuals and academics that are trying to avoid conflict. And we're seeing a tower, real fighting going on in the House. Look, they passed the big, beautiful bill, dragging us into 2.5 trillion more in debt. So clearly they don't care about bankrupting the United States, but we're moving closer towards bankruptcy as a country. And blaming Social Security. It wasn't Social Security that put us in this situation. It was the big, beautiful bill. I don't like the tower. I mean, the truth of the matter is, liberals are often pretty frugal. We're the ones sitting around eating brown rice and tofu, hanging out at the co-op. I mean, we have a long history of frugality, the liberals. I mean, I don't know. Eventually, Democrats are going to take a hold. They're only ahead by 3 or 4 seats. The fact that the weapons of war are taken away, smoother waters. There's a star over the academia. Yeah, I think they'll pass the budget, but they can't stay with this president. Will the British monarchy survive in the future? Yeah, well, Harry says he has no regrets about leaving. He has no regrets about being happily married to his beautiful wife. He would do it again in a heartbeat. And that basically, if anybody needs to apologize, they need to apologize for how they treated his wife, which was atrocious. It was shockingly bad. And own what you did. He's being very strong. He's a hell of a man, isn't he? Hubba hubba. All right, that's a real man, right? All right, the British monarchy survived. Let's look at Crazy William with his alcoholism and the hole he has in his head. Two of Cups, a desire to survive, the opposition, sobriety, and the hope and fear, dirty family secrets, and Chariot. The bottom line is that the bloom is off the rose. The problem with Harry is he took away the mystique of the Windsors, and they just became a regular family with psychological problems, alcoholism, pervert uncles, the uncle who's a pervert. Stop blaming Harry. Harry didn't make Andrew a pervert or Sarah a pervert apologist or Camilla a racist. You guys did this to yourselves. The only decent one is Anne, and she wants nothing to do with any of it. All she does is work, and her kids don't have titles. You don't need a title to serve. That's Anne's whole point, right? Just serve. Everything else is BS. She likes to hang out with the boys at the stable. I did a wonderful remote view of Anne where I wanted to see the freak when Trump showed up and was with the Queen. Do you want to come in? No, I'm good right here, standing at the door, looking at that freak. I just want to get a good look at that freak. I know, I'm fine right here, looking at that freak. What will I be doing, Whimsy, after I'm done here? Well, I'm going to walk right across. You see where those cars are parked, and there's a stable back there, Whimsy? Yes. Well, what you don't know is that there's a pub, that we've created a private pub. Don't tell my mother. And I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to have a very nice brandy with my friends who are in the stables. We're going to talk about horses, and I'm going to have a nice brandy. Well, after I did that remote, we found out that, in fact, they did create a secret pub, and I can tell you where it is. When you're facing, I know I'm horrible. I've been there. I've done many remotes, and I've been inside Buckingham Palace at least 10 times, so I know where everything is. But I know. Oh, Whimsy. So when you're facing Buckingham Palace, if you come around the corner, if you head left and then right, in the back there's there's an entrance way. Well, it's closed to the gardens, but there's also horses in that area. That is where we put up a pub. Yes, and that's where I went and had my brandy after I saw the freak. Yes. Now, when you go into the area, when you enter, it's actually divided up. But if you go up and there's steps to the private chambers that on the right, and then there's two apartments. There's the Queen's apartments, and then there's the Prince's apartment. So this way, you go right upstairs. That's the private Queen's quarters, and then behind that was Prince Philip's quarters. Yeah, and you can get there through the back stairs, which are they're just back stairs. That's how the help. I tried going in. Oh, and there's a long hall. You come up the stairs, you go down the hall, and there is a way to join. In the back of the hall, I believe, is how you join the two apartments between the Queen and Prince Philip. Yeah, so you have this Two of Cups, which is a desire for peace. There are people that are like ordering him back, and oh, it's terrible that the cousins don't know each other. You must bring your children back. It's a trap. They really just want to torture Meghan's children. Just, they feed on them like parasites. But You also have family secrets, a desire for a reconciliation here. I don't see it happening. I also feel like the bottom line is that I just feel a sense of weakness from Charles, that he allows himself to be bullied by William. I don't see him as necessarily strong here. So yeah, in answer to your question, I think just exposés are ultimately what takes out the royals. The people fight against, and that's what's happening. Down with the crown. That's right, down with the crown. So you have a lot of that going on right now, and I don't know if they're going to be able to survive it. Yeah. Yes, I came out of and I walked down and down to that back area, and I had a good stiff drink with my mates who take care of the horses. Yes, and I smell firewood. I smell the beautiful smell of the fresh air and the firewood as I'm sitting there. Perhaps they've started a fire with wood. It smells lovely. Yes, there's a fire. Having my brandy, chatting with my mates. That's Anne. All right. How many more GOP congressmen and senators will resign? This is the big issue, Joel, is that I do see that. I do see, because you can see the insanity in the cards. I've shown them the last couple of days so that you can all see. I'm glad I have this set up for you guys, because it's important to see the cards, and I think it makes a much more, would you agree, a much more enjoyable reading for all of you. But you can see the chaos. You can see the Tower. You can see yesterday the Eight of Cups. This is not. There's a lot of people that want to leave. Congress is going to lose potentially 23 to 24 seats which is a massacre. But what did they expect? They completely destroyed the economy. Why would people be loyal? The one thing you were supposed to do was clean up the economy. Okay, let's look at, I don't think it's good at all. Not if you're GOP. No confidence. People are losing their houses. They can't. Ooh, new jobs. Page of Pentacles, new work and new jobs. Archangel Gabriel is the closest to the earth. He is the main, he, she, they, gives us our ideas. The Quran, the Torah, the great poems, songs, Bridge Over Troubled Water, the 7 Psalms by Paul Simon. These were channeled works. That's Gabriel. He gives us our work, our inspiration. He gives the work. Smoother waters lay ahead, the hope and the fear, 7 of Wands, defensiveness, and the final outcome is 4 of Pentacles. They have to really start to be a lot more frugal. I mean, they've really got to start cutting back. This idea that Trump wants to have the same beauty that they have. Well, we want to have it like they have in Buckingham Palace. How come we don't have the tuxedos and all of that? Because we're frickin' broke, and because this is not a monarchy. Well, I want to have my military parade. First off, they shouldn't be doing it in Britain. People don't have money to boil a can of soup. So it's infuriating the people of Britain. There's an examination of the purse, corruption of the purse, loss of coin of the purse, and defensiveness. Nobody wants to take responsibility for their part in all of this. Global changes are front and center. And if you can't take responsibility for your part, If you can't take responsibility for how you helped construct the current situation, that's a problem, particularly when you've been elected to help. Yeah. Yeah. So Ukraine has taken 62 miles back. Yeah, I think that it's not looking good for Russia because they don't have real soldiers anymore. Good, Debbie. Yeah, do an account and a reckoning just like anybody else and see how many potatoes you have, any food in the freezer, and start using it up. Yeah, I agree 100%. She's the only real royal worth anything. Charles was a whore dog when he was, yeah, well, evidently he was bad in bed too. There was a lot of people that talked about. What did Diana say? He couldn't find my erogenous zones. Machiavelli wrote The Art of War. I thought The Art of War was Lao Tzu. I thought that was it. The highest income folks are propping the American Hitler autocratic regime. Well, it's definitely not taking care of the regular people. Yeah, you love. Yeah, she's quite. She's quite the. Quite funny. Will Secretary Holman be fired or forced to resign for his handling of the ICE enforcement? Well, didn't he take a bribe for $50,000, which makes no sense because he's worth something like $10 million. So nobody can figure out why he would take a bribe anyway. But let's go ahead and take a look. Holman, what the heck is going on there? Money, 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 money. Oh, angry consequences for Holman. Yes. Very defensive. Look at that 7 of Wands. Hopes and fears out in the cold. Yeah, they've lost no contest. Yeah, he's out. No contest. No confidence, excuse me. Defensiveness. Anger. Out. Anybody surprised? You know what? I don't know if Kash Patel is long for this world either, you know? Oh, that song? He was interviewed. He said that he had a friend who was being stalked by a woman. And he wrote it for his friend who was talking about this woman that was like kind of stalking him. And so he created a story about it. Yeah. Yeah, it's they survive in a different way. If you look at the Trooping of the Colors, it was only immediate family. I don't even think Anne was there. Ooh, lucky you, 10 horses. How bad is Trump's dementia? I don't think that that's the main thing I was seeing. The main thing I was seeing was that he had coronary artery disease, and that's going to have an impact on your ability to, you're not getting oxygen to the brain. And then if you've got diabetes as well, he wanted to create an image of himself as a god who didn't succumb to the illnesses of regular people. And the truth of the matter is, of course, he succumbs. The truth of the matter is he did pretty good living to 80, considering what he eats. It's just no confidence. That's what I keep getting. There's no confidence. I don't have confidence in these Kash Patel. I don't have confidence in the president. This backlash energy, problems with the courts, problems with the budget, evidence against him, defensiveness about his situation. That Empress, boy, evidence against him leading to the swords. This guy, the main thing is I just see exposés over Trump. That's the bottom line. I just see all these exposés. All right, you guys, we're going to go ahead and finish up. We've been here almost 2 hours. And yeah, it's time for me to have my smoothie. I haven't eaten yet, and I'm ready to do it. I'll do one more. I'm curious about Pam Bondi because I think she's had a real hard time. She's had a really hard time. But let's look at the future of Pam Bondi. You know, are you going to be a sycophant and a praise singer, or are you going to do what's ultimately best for the American people? Oh, thank you, Tarot backwards. I appreciate that. Like, share, and subscribe. That's how we get to 100K. It would really help me out. There she is. Tower's coming for her. Yeah, Tower's coming for Bondi. I don't know. Something's coming out about her. An investigation. Also, she's having, it's health related. Archangel Raphael. Did she have a health crisis? There's a tower with Raphael. Something's going on with her health. Oh, is she drinking? Something to do with sobriety or patience? Something. Yeah, the president takes her out. Sorry, getting a thing. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you, everyone who's been hanging out with me. Thank you so much for your love and support of the channel. If you are trying to get in for a reading, you can find all the information below. I would love to meet you, and I would love to give you a reading. That's all I have for you today. What a day it has been. What a day it has been of revelations and contemplation. And of course, it's never too late to change your life and to do an account and a reckoning. On that happy note, be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. And we will see you all next time. Much love. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for everything. All right. Bye-bye.